signed into law on June 16th, 2021. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. People who wish to watch or whatever, I don't know. If you want to see the remote meeting, it's at www.southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. Okay, calling the meeting to order. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are missing Jesse and we wish him a speedy recovery from his surgery. I would like to have everyone discuss the minutes. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes that you received in your packet? Okay, we can get a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Seconded.
Okay, this is a roll call vote. John?
Aye.
Tom B?
Aye.
Tom M?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
And Dorian is an aye. Okay, minutes are approved. Okay, moving on to Affordable House Trust Fund 5-year plan, the warrant language preparation. In your packet, you have the old language that our state, is it Ellen? Sarah, is it Ellen?
Emma?
Emma, I knew it was
Emma.
E. Sorry, I'm very sorry. I'm not good with these names early in the morning. Emma had written for us, and we had sent it into town council for them to take a look at it, and they have changed the language. That language needs to be approved by the Board of Selectmen. So in your packet, you will see the old language that was proposed by Emma, and then the new language by town council. So I'd like to have a discussion on that because we need to vote on the language that we'd like to see in the warrant article.
I'm going to share the language that town council has recommended, and then we'll sort of go from there. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So the highlighted portion is the language that town council recommended. It's very similar to, what Emma and I collaborated to come up with. I think it's just a little more specific in the sense that it's acknowledging that in the original warrant articles, those funds were to be expended under the direction of CPC, and now they would be spent under the direction of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee.
Now, the one thing that I agree, he actually referenced the actual town meetings, which I think is very good. But then it said, by eliminating the requirement that said funds be expended under the direction of the CPC. I'm not a lawyer, but I thought that's not correct. We don't have to under the direction of, they're just the facilitator that we want to eliminate. That's the only question I'm going to have up to debate, I guess, in this that I saw.
So my understanding is that the way that the original warrant articles were written, it did specify that those funds needed to be expended under the direction of, which isn't, always the case for these types of housing funds, but this language specific to 2009, 10 and 11 specifically stated that it needed to be under the direction. So that, you know what I mean? So I agree with you.
Nope, that makes sense then.
Why.
Can I just add something here? In reading the article that town council revised, to me, it almost sounds, and correct me if I'm wrong, to me, it sounds like they're saying that just these particular funds for this instance is being allowed to transfer that way. It doesn't appear, I thought one of the goals was that it would be ongoing in the future, that any future allocation would automatically transfer to Affordable Housing Trust Fund, but that's not how this reads.
So we should add for all future
No, I think I see this as a one-time moving the money from 2009, 10, and 11, and that's it. We're never gonna have this one repeated again, in my mind.
This won't be, but the problem is going forward, Tom, because
Right.
they have
Right.
control of all the money after that. Every year we put money in there. They've been holding our money since 2009. None of these have been expended.
I agree. So this is one warrant
Right.
article. Now, should we then jump to the other one and have the discussion, what you were saying, Dorian and Karina?
Oh,
I
I thought
agree.
that he comboed it all into one. So I only saw one article back from town council.
Yeah,
And
he-
I
yeah,
went-
he
And the
combined
other,
it into one instead of making it two different ones, because we had originally wanted to have a second one that said the money, once it's approved at town meeting, just goes directly to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and it's not held any longer by the
Correct.
so my question
By
is
the
what
CPC.
happened to the second one? And it doesn't seem clear to me that it's incorporated into the first. It looks like a
So-
one-time thing.
I
Cool.
agree. And so now I'm sharing the old language that we sent to town council. And I agree, something perhaps got missed in the back and forth, because I saw it as two separate thoughts, one thought to reallocate, so to speak, the funds that had already been approved, and then to ensure that moving forward, that when they were allocated, that they moved into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund immediately without staying into the CPC bucket.
If I could just add two cents on that, because the way I'm reading this, just, maybe from a lawyer standpoint, it seems like the draft warrant article that we prepared, just in terms of the disposition of the actual funds that are sitting in the CPC's account, that our draft called for it to actually be transferred to the Southborough Affordable Housing Trust. So it was out of the hands of the CPC. And that way it would be there, and we'd be nimble. If we found a project with expense, things that we wanted to spend it on, we wouldn't have to go through two boards to approve
Right.
the release of the funds before we could actually get our hands on it. The way I read Jay's is that transfer is not happening, that the way Jay's draft is set up is that it would stay with the CPC, but they would remove, this is to Tom's point, they would remove the requirement of the CPC to approve the transfer of funds, but the funds would still be held by the CPC. And I don't know whether that's a legal requirement the CPC has to hold the funds or not, but that's, I think, the way I see it, a material difference between our draft and their draft. And then I guess as a second point to what everyone was just talking about, this is addressing this $196,000. It's already been approved in prior town meetings for the allocation for these purposes. And I'm just wondering if going forward, it's just a matter of, for future allocations, whether the town warrant article just omits any requirement of CPC approval of the funds for future allocations, rather than having a blanket. Because again, it may be a legal issue. Maybe there's a prohibition against a blanket, rule that says the funds have to go directly to the Southborough Affordable Housing Trust and circumvent the CPC. I'm just not sure if that's a question for Jay.
So Tom, with that said, the language that Sarah's sharing, and correct me if I'm wrong, I see this as a one-time article about the $196,000.
I agree.
do too. And I'm just
Okay.
wondering if going forward, the reason there's a one-time article for this is because the prior authorizations made the
Right.
terms of disposition in the town meeting warrant where that they had to be approved by the CPC. I'm just saying whether for our purposes, achieving our purposes of not having that requirement going forward, is that for future funding votes for affordable housing in future town meetings, we asked the town meeting article not include a requirement of CPC approval.
Right, so we're
Right.
gonna need a separate warrant article for that. We can't.
Yeah, I'm just going
Correct.
forward as a matter of practice, I guess in my mind.
Right, which is what we had asked for. That's why they were sent two different warrant article languages.
Right.
And somehow one of them was missed.
Or he
So-
agrees with the second one, but we should not assume that.
Right. Here's the old
Yeah,
language, the language that was sent. So I just toggled back to the other. So, you
I will
know,
reach out to Mark today regarding
Okay.
that, because that needed a second. And here's the problem, if they don't have a placeholder for it and they missed it, I think we're just out of luck. I don't think we
And
can.
in my
add
mind, I guess
warrant
it's a
article.
mechanical difference. In the second warrant article, we were proposing that the funds allocated to the CPC be automatically transferred to the Southborough Affordable Housing Trust. And I'm
Yes.
just speculating that maybe they can't do that for some legal requirement that the CPC has to hold the funds. And do we achieve the same end by, if CPC has to hold the funds, eliminate the requirement of a CPC approval and just have the Southborough Affordable Housing Trust go to them and say, hey, give us, $50,000 for X without the CPC having to vote on it.
my understanding is that there are other communities that do just directly allocate.
Oh.
You know,
Straight to the Affordable
yeah,
Housing
yeah.
Trust. Okay.
Emma took a look at that and created a information pager. And, not all communities. So out of the 11 that have the CPC funds and a housing trust fund, 7 out of those are directly allocate.
Oh, okay.
over.
So maybe there's no law
Yeah.
against it that would suggest.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's just
I'm
the
not-
way ours is set up, and here's the thing, they don't have the authority to approve our projects. We just have to go to them and say, we have a project. And they have to give
Correct.
us our money, which it's kind of a waste of time, and it takes time to wait for them to meet, for us to meet, to vote. It's the timing issue. If we wanted to buy something, our hands are tied. We can't do anything. That's the biggest deterrent on this. They're holding us hostage, so to speak, because we can't get a hold of the money that's been allocated to us to use. That's the biggest problem. That's why if it goes to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, they're in charge of the housing stuff. CPC has no control over any projects or anything that's done with the money. They're not in charge of it. They don't approve it. We're not applying for grants. They're just holding on to the housing money. So it's kind of a waste to have to go through all of the paperwork and the bureaucracy to get our money when it's already been approved by the taxpayers. It should just be going directly to the group that actually handles the funding.
Mhm.
And I'm not understanding why CPC is holding on to the money, except that's what they write in every single article. And that just needs to change, because they don't get to approve our projects. They don't have any say about our projects. They seem to be like the gatekeepers of the money, and we don't need them because we have an affordable housing trust fund.
Mhm.
So-
Agreed.
Look at that property on Parkerville, sold.
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
but we
In a
didn't
matter of
even have,
days, so
yeah,
it's timing.
we could have
You know,
gone
if you
in,
can't
we
get
could
the
have
money, you
called
can't
it.
do anything.
Yeah, we could have called an emergency meeting for all of us, voted to buy it, and we could have just gone and done it. And we lost it because we would have to go to CPC, we'd have to wait for them to meet, we'd have to go to CPC and say, we have a project. In the meantime, everything sells. We don't have a month to wait when something goes on the market. We have to act immediately. And we can't do that the way
Mhm.
the way this is set up. So anyway.
And I just want to point out, Sarah, in the Dropbox is a copy of the recent draft warrant. If you wanted to put it up there, it's, I don't know if it makes a difference right now, but the warrant right now basically just has town council's revised warrant article language, from what I can see.
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that the language shown, hold on.
It's Article 31 in the draft.
Yep, the language shown here is the language that's currently in the draft warrant.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that precludes having, another paragraph in that article. I'm not sure how that works.
But I don't think we want to tie the two different thought processes together, Karina, into one article and take a chance of them both going
Right.
down the drain. They're very
Yeah, that's a
different.
good point.
They're
Right.
very, very different requests. One is
Right.
for all future funding to go directly to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This is a one-time, listen, give us our money
Release.
request.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we can't combine them. That's why we sent them in as two different warrant articles. There's two different warrant article languages here.
Did you send them in at the same time, Dorian?
I did.
Okay,
Yeah,
because
I sent them to
even in the
Mark.
prior draft, it was only Article 29. Release
You
of
know, I sent
secrets.
them into Mark. I think what happened is when it went to legal counsel, I think they missed it. I think they looked at that almost as an explanation instead of a separate article. But they're clearly separate articles. They're not the same thought process. So
And if you're going to go back to them, I mean, I guess even on the first article that we want, you know, I just reiterate the point. I don't think it's really saying that the funds are going to be transferred. The net effect of this is to remove the CPC approval, but
Right.
it's really not saying, you know, we're going to vote to go ahead and transfer those funds. It's saying that, you know, the future expenditures won't be subject to the CPC. So it may be worth a question to town council and Mark Purple as to what, you know, what was the rationale behind removing the requirement of an actual transfer of the funds.
I think that's a really keen eye, Tom, because that's not something I necessarily picked up on reading it. But once you say it like that, I totally hear it, totally see it. So that's really helpful.
Thanks.
okay, hang on. All right, I will get a hold of Mark today.
In this
Okay, so
mock-
we're not agreeing. We don't believe that this is the language that we should have in this. So I need this to go back to town council to change it.
Well, the one that's on the screen right now,
Yes, this is the one that Mark put in the warrant.
right, from
Board of
council.
Selectmen. No,
So,
right, but this is the one that Mark put in the warrant, in the warrant right now. This is what it's reading. And this is not what we wanted to read.
let's specify what exactly in this that we don't agree with.
Yeah, we need to come up with the language to send back to council to have him take a look at it.
I'm sorry, maybe I'm missing it. For the transfer of the 196K, to me, this is very clean and cut. We'll transfer the money, eliminate whatever was talked about in 2009, 10, and 11. Done. We don't have to spend a lot of time if I'm missing it, but what in this language for this one purpose, I'm not talking about future, I'm talking about this one purpose is not right.
Here, the
So
other
I would
thing
ju-
that's missing in this is
Chime-
the interest from 2009 on all of this money. There's a pretty good large sum of money that should be included in this. It shouldn't just be the 196. It should also include the interest since 2009 of that money. In 2009, it was $90,000. They've had that money since 2009 sitting in an interest-bearing account. We should be getting the interest. So the interest should be included on this article.
So should we just put plus accrued interest?
Yeah, just
After the
put that
amount?
plus accrued interest. Yeah, that'd be easy. But Tom, you were saying for my
Yeah,
question.
Tom, let me just go back to your point, because I know this is, you know, again, I guess I'm coming at it from my standpoint as a lawyer. These languages can get very subtle. So when it says we're going to vote to amend the previous town meeting votes, and then it says in reference to those, that those, it's actually the which authorized language, Sarah.
Okay.
In
hold
reference to
on.
those previous votes, it's characterizing them as having authorized transfer of funds from CPC to the Affordable Trust.
Oh, okay, I see
But
the
it's not
subtleness now.
saying
Yeah,
we
okay.
hereby authorize and direct the transfer of those funds.
Got it.
So really the net effect of this, the way I read it is, those funds are still going to be held by CPC, and the only effect of this is to eliminate the CPC's
Right.
requirement
Got it.
of approval.
Yeah,
So
Right.
should
thank
we
you, Tom.
should we write that? Should we
Well,
write
I
in
think
there?
my suggestion would be rather than us, to take a stab at drafting the language of this, to go back with just the bullet point to say, hey, this is only eliminating the CPC's direction. It's not actually directing the transfer of the funds, which is what we asked for. Point one, just layperson's terms, for all of us, that's what we want to achieve. And point two, we want the second part in here that was overlooked, which says that all future allocations of funds for affordable housing will go directly to the Southborough Housing Trust and circumvent the CPC. Those are the 2 points I think we want to achieve.
Agreed. Okay.
So that would be the second article though.
Well, if we can ask them
Or
to
worked in
combine the
somehow,
two.
but the point is missing, I think, is what we want to communicate to them.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So
Well,
let me just,
Dorian's right, that if you combine them though, and it goes down, you won't get both of them. So Dorian's point to that, keeping two warrant articles, keeping the two items separate is probably
Yeah,
a
that's
good
probably,
idea.
that's a good point, Karina. Yeah, that's probably a good reason to keep them to add a second warrant article rather than wrap it into this one-time transfer issue.
Because if the second one fails, we can just pretty much paraphrase this one again next year.
Right.
Yeah, for all future expenditures, sure.
It's like it makes it bureaucracy on bureaucracy. But understood.
I mean, we're still gonna have to go in and get the money from 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17. I mean, right through. This is crazy, but whatever. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna ask them, I'm gonna tell them bullet points that they're only eliminating the CPC direction and that we've asked for the actual transfer of the funds in this warrant article. So this needs to be reworked. And then we get asked for a second article that all future allocations of funds approved at town meeting for housing are to go directly, transferred immediately and go directly to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Okay.
And just before you take any kind of official vote, I just want to throw the other side out here. If you were to put the two articles together, as Tom had just said, it could possibly happen if things start to go south at the town meeting and someone there's a plan to make a motion to amend. I don't know if that's kind of a avenue to take. It's probably a little bit more risky because the motion still has to be approved too. They have to vote on the motion to amend. So I don't know if worse comes to worse and you can't get a second article because there's no placeholder. I don't know how that works. If you did combo them, I know that in the past people have often said, well, let's do this and then we'll have a strategic plan that if this happens at town meeting, one of the members makes a motion or somebody makes a motion to amend the article to take something out of it. Just food for thought. Just want to make sure that's.
Yeah, my 2 cents on it quickly is I sort of agree with your previous point, Karina. I think it probably makes sense to have it as a separate article because this article really deals with specifically the disposition of this $196,000. And the
Yeah,
second
the
article
past.
really is an ongoing principle that
future.
will apply,
Right. I agree. I think clear and clean is best.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to put that out there. Thanks.
Okay, I'm also gonna ask them to also include all accrued interest. To add that into that. Because we might be talking at least another $1,000+ so I actually have a call in to see how much the interest is because the money is in an interest bearing account. So, all right. So we won't take a vote on this now then, because we don't have the exact language, but we're not happy with this and that does need to be changed. So we may have to meet, probably when I'm in Disney, but we may have to meet like next week or the week after just to vote on this language. Just a heads up, because this needs to get completed in order to get it into the warrant for the town meeting. Is everybody okay with that? And trust me, that would be the only thing on the agenda for the meeting is just to vote the language, to approve the language, vote it, and Well, if you approve it, if not, you'd have to have a second meeting, but, okay, so that's where we're good on that. Okay, MBTA communities. Sarah, can you pull that,
Yep.
letter up from Medway?
I'm just gonna stop sharing real quick.
So we've been discussing this new law that's come down from the state about the MBTA communities, mandatory 50 acres set aside for affordable housing. 25 acres of that has to be within a half a mile of the MBTA station that we have in town. The other 25 can be broken into as small as 5 acres, but there has to be another 25 acres for a total of 50 acres in town for housing, not necessarily affordable, just housing. And they want us to have a minimum of 750 units built, which we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the schools. We don't have sewer systems. I mean, it would destroy in my opinion, it would destroy the charm and the way our town operates. We don't have the ability to do what they want us to do. So this is also a letter from the town of Medway that Sarah has included in our packet. It looks like, and I don't know if anyone's had a chance to read this, they're feeling the same way and making the same points as I was making at our last meeting. The other thing is they're blackmailing us. If we don't do this, then we're not going to get state grants, which I don't think they can legally do either. So they're really strong arming the communities to do this stuff. And it's not a one size fits all for every community. So my suggestion would be that we ask the BOS and we ask planning and maybe zoning that we take charge of this piece with the MBTA and we compose a letter to send to the state. And we hit some of the same points that Medway has done, how it's not going to work for us and the reasons why. I mean, we have 3 private schools in our town. One of them has over 300 acres of land. The other one has just under 100. And I don't know what the other one has exactly, but we have all kinds of housing that they own. We don't have the land. We don't have the infrastructure. So we need to let them know that this isn't going to work for us. And we can't do it. We don't have 50 acres of land to give. So my suggestion is we get together and we write a letter. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this to see what you think, but I'm not sure if any of you have actually read this letter or not from Medway.
Tony, if I could chime in quickly, yep. I actually sat in on that I don't know what
MMLA.
The lawyers.
I sat in on that where all the stakeholders talked about the MBTA
Perfect.
guidelines.
Yep.
And you hit the nail on the head on a lot of these, Dorian. It's a really onerous set of requirements, and it really is much harder on smaller communities. 750, a minimum allowable, doesn't mean that we have to create them. It means that our zoning has to allow for 750 units, which is a huge, would be a huge percentage of our housing stock. So it is onerous, and I definitely agree that the town in some fashion should respond to this as well, making some of the same points as Medway, because I think some of the same points in here apply to us. I just personally don't, I think it's a little bit bigger than us, than Shopc. I think it's a board of selectmen, level of response of the town to the state on this, on what I tend to think that we should be weighing in with what the town says. I don't tend to think that we should take the lead on being the person, being the body that takes charge of the communications. And I don't know if the board of selectmen will want us to be the party being the lead on this. Just my 2 cents.
Right, but and the reason I was suggesting that, Tom, is because this is what we do. We do the housing. We're in charge of the housing. you know, this is the
But
group
it's,
that
we do
is
affordable
working
housing,
on
but
that.
this is housing in general as well. So it is
Right.
broader than just,
That's
than
true.
just affordable housing.
But they do need someone to take the lead. I don't think the Board of Selectmen is gonna want to take the lead. So it's either gonna be planning or it's going to be us. I don't even think it would be zoning. And
Well, the
because,
reason, sorry to interrupt, Dorian, but tonight's planning board meeting, as you're aware, the joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and Shopc and planning, at the planning meeting this evening, it's the first item on the agenda after we discuss the trees. MBTA community, the purpose that's on the meeting tonight is to come to some plan of how is this going to be handled? Who is the lead? Who will take responsibility to take charge of this? Getting feedback from the other entities. So I can tell you that town council provided an advisory to the town. I believe that was like a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months. I don't know if anybody on Shopsy has seen that.
nope.
It's a
Have not
letter
seen
from
it.
town council that indicates what the requirements are. It's kind of a summary letter. So it's my guess, and it's my hope that the Board of Selectmen working with town council will take some lead on this with feedback from Shopsy and planning. I know that there are planning board members who do want planning board to play a big, a significant role in this with feedback because of the impacts to the town. So that being said, tonight's meeting is going to be important on the direction that the town takes. Second part is that, as Tom said, the MMLA had a really good workshop, and there's a PowerPoint presentation, and Sarah, that's on the Dropbox as well, that I think that was sent to you. You should take a look at that because it's very informative. At the very end, it outlines the steps that the town has to take with timeframes. And I believe the MMLA also stated at the workshop that if towns and communities had comments, they could also submit them to be included in their response letter to the state in regards to this requirement. So there's kind of two avenues here. There's the town submitting their letter of concerns. There's maybe getting in on the MMLA document when they submit their concerns, and then have town council involved in this. And it's just my opinion because there are some, legal ramifications on this. So whether it's allowed for a state to withhold grant funding if they don't submit to requirements like this, those are town council questions as well. So just food for thought. So tonight's meeting will be talking about some of this, and that presentation from MMLA was sent out to Board of Selectmen members, planning board members, and I think.
Yeah, I did send it in an email, but I can resend. Yep.
Yeah, it was in
And
preparation.
just don't know if you're aware, Selectman Healy's in the audience with his hand up.
Oh, good. I know I can't see him.
Sorry, I'm on mute.
I thought Selectman
see
Healy
the,
was a member of our committee. No,
Yes, I'm sorry. I can't.
you
see
can't
the
elevate him.
participants when I'm screen sharing. It's a little muddled, so.
Also, I think
Apologize.
we have a hack into the chat room.
We
just
took
so
care of
you-
it.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
we
did.
had it. Yeah, we took
Thank
care
you.
of
I've been
it.
hanging out there for a while. I'm sorry.
Oh, I apologize.
Sorry I'm late. I couldn't get in through the connection, so I had to go in through Zoom. But can I just say something quickly about this?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Absolutely.
Okay, because I attended and Mimi Luttrell was there as well on behalf of the planning board, but the Metro West collected. I can't
Regional
remember.
Collaborative.
What is it? What is it?
MWR.
Karina?
It's the Metro West Regional Collaborative, MWRC for short.
Okay. See, I'm on it and I don't even know how to say the name.
It takes a while to learn that one.
Too many letters. But anyway, they had a presentation and a discussion about this. I mean, it's not surprisingly a hot issue. I guess first, I mean, the overall takeaway that I had from that discussion is that nobody knows what's going on. And there is mass confusion about this statute and follow-up regulations, which haven't even been implemented yet a year later. That's number one. Number two, I think some of the angst about this is overblown, because this doesn't require the town to build anything. It doesn't require I mean, buildings aren't going to go up as a result of any steps that a town takes with respect to this. It's simply that all that the statute requires is that zoning, if it doesn't already exist within a half mile of a train station, which we obviously have, that zoning go into effect. I mean, that's what the statute requires. Who knows what the regs are going to say in response to that. The final thing is, from a timing standpoint, I mean, I think the state probably does because it wouldn't be withholding funds. It would be, you wouldn't have the opportunity to receive funds. So in other words, it's not something that the town is entitled to. It's something that the town could seek. And basically the state with this statute is saying, you're not eligible to seek these funds if you haven't adopted these provisions. That being said, it's relatively limited, although there was some discussion about the possibility of the state putting even a larger hammer on communities to enact this sort of zoning by extending through regulations or otherwise the extent to which you could be denied various avenues of funding if you didn't adopt this sort of a zoning reg. But those sort of funding opportunities are a ways away as well. So I agree with that steps need to be taken to get the state off the schneid and clear up exactly what the hell they want from towns on this thing. But you know, a guillotine isn't about to fall on us because we haven't adopted zoning regs at this point. I mean, it's very early in the process, and I think there are a number of different acts to be played out before anything real happens. Anyway, that's my takeaway from the meeting last week.
Marty, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the EDC is engaged in the one-stop program for funding for those grants. And it's my understanding, I thought that that's impacted by this. So if you don't have compliance, they won't have those grants. And I think they're in the $40,000 to $50,000 range.
Yeah, I think it is possible that the state could take that position. I will be stunned if they do, given the disarray on their side of things. But by the same, the earliest that the Southborough could do something in terms of zoning would be to call a special town meeting for the fall. So it's not like we can do something with respect to that one-stop grant.
Well, that great presentation that the MMLA sent out. First, it shows the 3 types of grant funding that will be impacted. MassWorks, I can't recall the other 2, but the other thing is there's an interim compliance. There's a form online that has to be filled out that will give communities interim compliance, but then there's a whole schedule of what you have to do to then follow through.
Yeah, and it's not, again, I think the steps that towns are taking here, and it sounds like you all were discussing before I got on, which are to say to the state, you've made a complete mess of this thing, and we need actual guidance here as opposed to what currently exists, is the right step, rather than running around and trying to comply with something that borders on incomprehensible.
Yeah, also, for example, that one of the examples I gave is like Plimpton, right? Plimpton, if they're forced to have 750 units by right in some district of this MBTA communities, that's 70% of their housing units. And in Southborough, with I think this census that we have 3,700 housing units for 2020 census. At 750, that's like 20%. So I don't know, Marty, just trying to throw that out there so there's a perspective. That's a lot.
I get it.
Yeah.
But again, that's the second side of it. That's independent of the zoning.
Yeah.
In other words, that's what could happen. And
Right.
that's supposedly the incentives that this thing is designed to create. But
Right.
all you got to do is drive by Southville Road and realize that the notion is ludicrous. There aren't, hundreds of units that are going up on any of the land over there. But anyway, but again, that is what the state is hoping will happen, and what the door that's open. But really, the town compliance is just implementing the zoning regs, even though that's not an uncomplicated process. But again, my takeaway from the discussion last week from all the towns in Metro West is that unless somebody's already lucky enough to have done something like this by chance near a commuter rail station or whatever else qualifies, that folks are in a quandary about how to work their way out of this because of what the state's done here and what they haven't done.
So Marty, do you think the BOS will take the lead on this then, so that we don't have to worry about it, and they would send a letter?
I think Karina's right. This is going to be a discussion between the
Tonight,
selectmen
okay.
and the planning board, and obviously Shopc members will be there tonight as well. I suspect that ultimately the correct entity to send a letter on behalf of the town is the select board.
BOS.
But I don't want to commit us to do anything on my own. I don't quite have that much unilateral authority.
That's what I heard. I heard Marty Healy saying, yeah, that we're going to send a letter.
And
I
also
heard
note
that too, Tom. I heard that. Tom, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just 2 cents, really quickly, just to add on to what Marty just said. I think that's a really helpful perspective. Look, there's not a guillotine coming down on us. We don't have to enact this in the next 30 days and get it on the town warrant, or the world ends. So that's helpful to know. I do think that this is the time where, the state is coming up with these draft regs for this program. And, much like Medway's done here, I think it is timely for at least towns like Southborough to weigh in on the way the state is sort of ham-fistedly enacting these regs without due regard to different sizes, different circumstances of municipalities. So even though I don't think there's a guillotine over our heads to enact our MBTA community zoning immediately, I do tend to think that we as a town need to weigh in on this, or should weigh in on it, so that we echo Medway's comments that these regs need to be refined a little bit.
Agree. We'll just tell the Board of Selectmen how to handle this tonight.
Select board.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I've had my wrist
Select
slapped
persons.
enough that I actually say it most of the time now.
The SB instead of the BOS. Okay. All right. Does anybody have anything else to add to the conversation about the MBTA? And is everyone coming tonight? Yes, perfect. That's wonderful news. Okay. Next meeting. Did we have one planned, Sarah? I think we have one.
March 10th, I think,
Plan for March 10th, yes.
after tonight.
Okay. So March 10th, everybody's still set for March 10th at 8:30?
Will we have the warrant by that, the language?
Hopefully.
That'll be the only thing. If we don't have that, do we meet on the 10th still?
I don't know. I haven't looked at everything that else we need to get through.
You
For
may want to
March.
return to the MBTA communities discussion based on tonight.
True.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get a hold of Mark today and get this stuff back and see if he can get a quicker response from legal counsel and have that for our meeting for March 10th.
Okay.
But we probably
Thank you.
will want to discuss tonight's meeting on March 10th, or if we've been assigned to do something, we'll have to discuss that at March 10th, or, we'll leave it open. If there's nothing, trust me, Tom, if there's no reason to meet, I'm going to cancel the meeting. So I don't want to waste your time. I appreciate you guys being here as often as you are. So, all right, that said, do we have anybody else have anything else, questions, points to talk about? Nothing? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Well, it would have been interesting to see if we had any public comment from the people in the chat line earlier.
Yeah, we got hacked. We got hacked.
That
That's an issue.
was
That
pretty
wasn't
quick.
nice.
That was the first time I've seen that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've never seen that, but we definitely got hacked. I think Jay needs to know that. So, all right. Do we have a
I'll move to
motion to
adjourn.
adjourn? Okay, second.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote. John,
Aye.
you're okay. Tom B,
Aye.
Tom M,
Aye.
Marty,
Aye.
Alex, you're muted.